everybody, it is I, Andre, from the 4-Hour Info YouTube and Rumble channels. And today we're going to be talking about something that just occurred a few days ago that's a very unfortunate event. And that is the assassination of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was speaking at a Utah college campus where he was assassinated by getting shot in the neck by a lunatic maniac. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things that are not yet known about the whereabouts of the shooter, the motives were, the political affiliation of the shooter, etc., etc. But I'm going to explain the unfortunate issue about just the normalization of politically motivated violence in our country. And that is that to say that if you disagree with somebody on policy, vehemently disagree, then there are some deranged people out there that believe that that gives you the license to end that person and say, you know what, we're going to shut down that person that way. And that's so despicable. It's extraordinarily wicked. And it just shows how fallen our world is. You know, Jesus Christ himself said that if you're even angry at a brother or angry at a sister, then you essentially murder that person in your heart already. That's in the Sermon on the Mount, my personal favorite piece of Christian scripture. And to see that we've gone beyond just anger to essentially saying, hey, if you disagree, then there's no reason to converse on these subjects. There's no reason to say, you know what, I can just grant you the fact that you're a human being. I'm going to basically debate you using the lowest form of debate possible, violence. And that is just tragic for our country. And this is becoming just normalized. You know, a year ago, we had the lunatic in Butler, Pennsylvania that attempted the same thing that happened with Charlie Kirk. And if Trump were not in the position he was in, then Trump would have ended up suffering the same fate that Charlie Kirk did. And then we had these Minnesota lawmakers who were targeted and were killed. And there were some of them that were killed. You know, and there would have been a lot more if the killer had his way. There is no way to say that any of this is reasonable and that we should resort to this kind of level. I'm not just saying this as a supporter of Trump and a conservative and a Christian. I'm saying this as a fellow American. Anyone who disagrees with me is a fellow American. And when can we say that violence should never be used unless a life is in imminent danger? That's the only time it should ever be considered. Not when the person disagrees with your beliefs. There is no justification for this. You know, it's important to converse on these subjects. It's important to share opinions and to talk it out. But when someone says, no, I don't want to be Charlie Kirk's interlocutor, I want to be an assassin that takes him out, you got a major problem there. this radical behavior is being normalized because of the vitriol we see in our country. And it's time to say that it's got to end. We got to heal as a country. We cannot have this happen. It is extraordinarily unacceptable. Now, political rhetoric radicalizes these people. When we accuse the other side of being the enemy, when we accuse them of believing in things that revokes humanity from the other person and says, you know what? They're not people with ideas I disagree with. I disagree with their existence and their ideas. What's our nation coming to? And having a culture that glorifies this kind of violence. When people claim that Trump is Hitler and that Charlie Kirk is an apologist for Hitler, what's going to happen? Now, yes, most people won't act on that, but you're going to have some deranged people in that crowd, like you do in every single crowd. We've got our fair share of deranged people on the pro-Trump side as well. Case in point, what happened with the Minnesota lawmakers. But at the same time, when each side throws around the rhetoric and throws around the vitriol, is it really surprising when someone decides to take matters into their own hands? And this is their idea of winning. That the other person's not a human being, and that their life is expendable if they disagree. It is such a gut-wrenching dynamic in our country. And we need to go back to conversing on ideas. And we need to show that everyone's a fellow human being. We're all flawed. Nobody's perfect. We're all sinners. I believe as a Christian, everyone's a sinner. Each and every person has fallen short of the love of God. But some people are still very much bound by just pure unadulterated hatred of the other side. I'm talking about people both on the left and the right. And there's something very wrong in our country. There is. And if I've ever participated in any rhetoric that could be interpreted as being radicalized, and I'm sorry. I never wanted to do that. And I think it's time to say that however we got here, at this point, needs to be examined, and we need to just converse purely on the ideas now. Charlie Kirk did not deserve to have his life taken from him, especially at the age that he was at. He was a young gentleman, aged 31. And he had children. He had either one child or he had multiple children. And they were very young children. They're never going to know who their father was. They're never going to be able to meet him. And that could give way to a possible dysfunctional family dynamic. That's a problem. But the shooter couldn't have cared less. And this is the problem with radicalizing people. To promote violence against one another. So listen, let's just say that as a country, we need to understand this is not about pushing an agenda. This is not about turning anyone into an idol. This is about saying that as a human being, from one flawed human being to the next, let me tell you that there is absolutely no right or reason to say that what happened in Utah today is completely respectable and honorable and decent. It's none of those things. It is highly criminal. It is extraordinarily evil. And it's a disgrace to our country. What we saw. We saw the absolute worst of America that occurred in Utah. And I hope that the perpetrator is found. And let this send a message that it's time to heal. It's time to make people happier. It's time to find ways to say that red and blue are just either side of the paradigm. But what defines us is adding in that white, where there's red and there's blue. So that way we can conjoin them together. And we can all become Americans once again. That's what it means to be an American. And it means that everyone from the right and the left should come together, denouncing violence, denouncing the loathing of the other side, and propagating the idea that you lose your humanity if you disagree. Anyone who participates in that should be called out, and attention should be brought on them. It's time to heal the dysfunction in our country. And it's time to say, let's find solutions. And it starts by showing empathy to one another and loving each other. Because as Martin Luther King Jr. once said, who was also assassinated, that hate cannot drive out hate, but only love can do that. Indeed, paraphrasing that. But you know what? That's true. Love is such a powerful emotion. If you show love and dignity and honor to other people, watch them be happier. If you see someone who you suspect is endangering other people in that way, show them love before it happens. Talk them out of it in kindness. Good old-fashioned kindness is one step towards a solution, that and prayer for other people. This is a good place to start, and in the coming videos, I'd love to expand on this more. But for now, I want to keep this simple and straightforward. Thank you, everybody. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, taken from this world at an age that was way too young. And I appreciate all of you for listening. God bless each and every one of you. God bless the United States of America. I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.